everybody has this big fear. Well, if Trump kicks off, or he gets, the Epstein shit catches up with him, and he gets bound, is JD Vance going to, be worse or better or whatever? Okay, first of all, Trump is a lame ass, but he's got the illusion of success that a lot of maggotdom have bought into, right? No amount of being Trump adjacent will make JD Vance look like any less of a dweeb. And that's the problem there. Now, I will say, sorry, hold on, let me open this up. I will say that they will probably do their level best to try and make him as Dan Quayle with a beard as they possibly can. But the idea that this guy is going to, have people making gold statues of him or wearing fucking, a slightly different color MAGA hat because it fits his tie, or believes JD Vance is the fucking messiah, the way they believed it about Trump is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. He's a dweeb. He knows it. You know it. Dogs know it. So he's trying to, he's got a really difficult situation here. Because if that's what takes Trump down, if this whole Epstein thing takes Trump down ultimately, he's got to distance himself from the man. But he can't do it and retain MAGA. And if he's running up against, anybody that's an easy setup for Democrats, whether it's Newsom and Gretchen Whitmer or somebody like that, without any, what I would say, social baggage, person of color, gay or a woman, anybody without having to sell that to the American people, which we've obviously had a rough time doing. I know 3 million extra votes in the popular vote. I'm with you. I voted for all of them. I get it. I would vote for Pete Buttigieg tomorrow. Understand. But what they know is that if he's up against anybody that they can't sell that dear God a woman, dear God a gay, dear God another black, dear God an Indian, dear God an Asian, dear God a Hispanic, whatever the fuck, they can sell to maggotdom to bring that back. Without that thing, he's doomed, and he knows it. Because he's a fucking dweeb. And Trump knows he's a dweeb. And he needs him to be a dweeb. And I'm presuming Megyn Kelly knows he's a dweeb. They tend to say he's smart a lot. That's the compensation. Right? It's like calling somebody cute in that realm. He's very smart. He's very smart. Okay. There are a lot of other smart people who are not dweebs. I'm telling you. And and there's nothing in his history that inspires confidence. Trump at least had the illusion that he wrote Art of the Deal, or the illusion that he, made it through 6 bankruptcies. Not, as we would decry his bankruptcies, a lot of Republicans would go, and he made it through, and he's still here, right? They would view that as an example of his bootstrapping, and not the fact that he'll make a fucking deal with the mob and the Russians, right? So let's see. This is Trump's answer on MAGA heir apparent. What's Trump's answer on the heir apparent to MAGA movement? What it really means with Bevin and Walworth. I don't know. Are those are the 2 puppets that are in the balcony and the? Okay, yeah.
Trump commented, and it's a very interesting.
It almost is. That's hilarious. It's Statler and Waldorf.
Comment, and you have to listen to the exact wording, but he commented on JD Vance and his future role the other day when he was asked on Tuesday. In SOT 7. Listen.
This weekend, Secretary of State Rubio said that he thought J.D. Vance would be a great nominee. You could clear the entire Republican field right now. Do you agree that the heir apparent to MAGA is J.D. Vance?
Well, I think most likely, in all fairness, he's the vice president. I think Marco is also somebody that maybe would get together with J.D. in some form. I also think we have incredible people, some of the people on the stage right here. So it's too early, obviously, to talk about it, but certainly he's doing a great job, and he would be probably favored at this point.
Your thoughts on that, Andrew?
Well,
What he's saying is he would need Marco Rubio holding his hand. And Trump thinks that Marco Rubio can't win, which he can't. And so, and he knows they might not be able, he doesn't think Vance can do it on his own. He's going to need training wheels. And he thinks Rubio might be the training wheels on that if he'll go for it, which he absolutely would. Rubio would absolutely fold in as VP to JD Vance and be his Dick Cheney. Will that ticket go anywhere? No.
we played that clip and talked about it because it's so fascinating. I mean, the question was whether he would be whether he's the heir apparent to the MAGA movement, right. Which is not to say who is the next presidential nominee for the Republican Party. Two different questions.
Is he trying to say that Don Jr. is? That Don Jr. is really going to be the heir apparent to the MAGA movement. He'll run MAGA after this. Coked up pectoral implants and all.
And then in his answer, it sort of sounded like at the end of it that he was sort of alluding to the second. He says where, he would be favored. Well, that's a political term.
Yeah, it sounds like a standard run-of-the-mill politician bullshitting. Good point.
It's always dangerous to try to parse the president's language too carefully.
Right. Unless you're good at talking to toddlers, I guess.
But I thought that was a really interesting statement. And I think,
interesting.
Clearly, he was answering it honestly, which he does from time to time. And he was saying that,
he does from time to time.
That's what he thinks, that JD Vance is the leader. But to put Marco Rubio as a potential leader of the MAGA movement, again, that's
which, by the way, Trump always does. It's very interesting. I've been noticing this for a while from him. Whenever he's asked this question, he mentions both of them. And he clearly hasn't in his own mind made up his mind on who he really wants to pass the baton to.
Yeah, and the question, of course, is who's at the top of the ticket and who's the number 2 slot. I think those two principles might have different views.
I don't think JD wants to spend another 4 or 8 years as vice president.
Yeah.
No.
But
he's a lot younger.
Oh, well, then I guess we got to give it to him then, huh?
Than Marco.
I think, sorry, I have it written down here somewhere. It says tough shit.
Yeah. But I think that Rubio being positioned as a MAGA guy, that's really interesting because it does mean, he's about the one guy who sort of went from being a Bushy, really, to being, at the head of the MAGA movement. That's pretty extraordinary, pretty deft politics.
Okay, no. He's not. Trump is talking about him being the VP to JD Vance. He's not talking about running the fucking movement. He means heir apparent to the presidency. Shut the fuck up. You don't speak Trump at this fucking point? Rubio is not fucking MAGA. What he does is he will toe the line while running the government. What he means is that he can bullshit everybody that he's on the team and still do the stuff necessary to keep the government functioning that the Republicans by and large know needs to happen or want to have happen. That's why USAID was folded into the State Department and he was put in charge of it, and about 80% of it was still preserved, was because Rubio will just, like other Republicans, know it needs to exist, but will just hide that it exists to please MAGA. That's not being the MAGA leader. The MAGA leader is, we don't need that shit. We shouldn't even be paying for it. Fuck that. He's the fucking Band-Aid on this blister.
Very. I know. I heard you guys talking about on Real Clear Politics about how, I think it was Carl who was saying he started off as a Tea Party darling. And then he asked him, or somebody asked him, how'd you manage that? And he said, I don't know. They just voted for me, but he's maneuvered it. He went from Lil Marco, which Trump used to say, Lil with an apostrophe, Lil Marco, to mention in every breath by Trump as possibly the heir apparent, though this one clearly seemed to favor Vance, Tom, which, obviously I'm sure JD Vance.
No, it didn't favor Vance. The question was led by Ducey, who asked specifically, can you clear the decks on behalf of JD Vance? Is he the heir apparent? It was a leading question, dumbass.
Would have been quite.
He didn't bring it up and like, who's the heir apparent? You could clear the decks right now with just deciding somebody is. Well, JD Vance, I think. Like, see how that works?
Happy to hear him say that. And by the way, here's some more support for JD Vance as the heir apparent from CNN's Harry Enton. Take a listen to SOT 7B.
Where does he stand on this?
You know, I'm going to quote the esteemed scholar Larry David and say, pretty good. JD Vance at 40%. There's no one even close to him. Ron DeSantis back at single digits at 8%. Donald Trump Jr. back at 7%. But keep in mind that early favorites have actually gone on to win the nomination 63% of the time, those who have run since 1980. And when you're dealing with fields that are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, upwards of north of 20, and all of a sudden you're telling me that the early poll leader, who is J.D. Vance, that those win more than 50% of the time? That is why I say it looks pretty gosh darn good, or pretty good for the man from Ohio. How about vice presidents sitting...
Jesus Christ. Laying it on a little thick, aren't you? Also, yeah, I agree. And Bush got trounced. He was obviously the the heir apparent after Reagan, and it only granted him one term because he was a dweeb.
Vice presidents, the last 5 sitting...
If his son hadn't had a war that he started, that he could argue like you can't whatever, you can't switch boats in the middle of a river, like you gotta jump from one raft to the other. If he hadn't had that, he would have gotten voted out as well, just like his old man.
Vice presidents who ran. Richard Nixon in 60, he won. How about Hubert Horatio Humphrey in 68? That's HHH. That's a real acronym for him. How about Bush the first in 88, won. Al Gore in 2001. Kamala Harris in 2024, won. All of the last 5 sitting vice presidents who ran for their party's nomination won. So it's not just the polling. Historically speaking, if J.D. Vance gets in this fight and he's the sitting vice president...
No, won the primary. Simmer down. And by the way, out of those, 2 of the 5 actually got into office.
The history books say, hey, he's got a pretty gosh darn chance of going...
Yes, he has a pretty gosh darn good chance of becoming the Dan Quayle on this list.
All the way, at least the general election, because 5 out of 5.
Tom, thoughts?
Well, not to nitpick Harry, but Kamala didn't really win. She
True. She did not even win her party's nomination. Win the nomination.
But look, he makes a good point, which is, look, JD Vance.
Yeah, the CNN video is silly, Alyosha. I agree.
Has done a good job as vice president, I think, in the eyes of Trump supporters, and Trump clearly
by being out of the eyes of Trump supporters,
thinks highly of him, and I think Trump is right. He just based on if you were a neutral observer, you'd say, yeah, I mean he's has the highest profile now. He has the highest name ID. I mean, he's going to be in pole position to win the nomination. The only reason that he might not...
Hey, asshole, it's 60-40 anybody else. 60% are like, nah, somebody else. He might get the nomination, but he's going to do it in a wide field with a narrow group. And in the case of like fucking George, like H.W. Bush and Nixon in this case, like they had like 80% or something at one point. That was when it was like understood that was the whole point of teeing it up. Good Lord.
Or he might have some vulnerabilities. We need to know where the country's going to be, where the Trump presidency is going to be, where the economy is going to be when.
Well, it's not looking good.
JD Vance, because that's always the problem, right? He's going to be basically running for a Trump third term, even though they're non-consecutive. And so that could be a real asset to him with Republicans, or depending on how things work out, it might be a bit of a drag on him. So we'll see. But
yeah. So what? Maybe if it's up to him to pardon Maxwell in the end, because Trump, is in a fucking stroked out wheelchair situation.
But clearly he is the guy. And I think he knows that. And I think Trump was sort of intimating, look, a Vance Rubio ticket would be ideal in terms of his mind
dreamy.
and the MAGA movement. Yeah.
It would be dreamy. But there's no way the guy who ran Celebrity Apprentice for all those years is going to give up the contest this early. We're 7 months into Trump in his second term. He's the star. He would like to remain the star. There's no way he is going to let somebody else become the star by naming them the heir apparent. Probably until the very, very, very end, and maybe not even then. We'll have to wait to find out.
Right.
What
He
he's
might
been saying
decide
lately
that he's
is
going to run for a third term at the end.
Right.
Yes, please. Yes. Fuck's sake. Oh my God. Let him fuck up the Republican primary, and then literally the Constitution saying, nah, piss off, you can't do that. And he's already cocked it up for everybody else who played along.
He says
He's not going to have a third term. He's like, if he finishes this one, it'll be a fucking miracle.
probably won't.
Yeah, he probably won't, because he'll probably be on a fucking respirator. Jesus Christ. And I'm not wishing that on anybody. That's not how I operate. I'm just speaking frankly about the dude's brain is turning to tapioca and his health is shit. Also, Obama could run again. Can you imagine? Ugh. Hilarious.